Supreme Court adjourns the hearing of the Delhi Police's petition to stop the proposed tractor rally on the 26th of January for Wednesday. It also observes that it is for the police to decide who should be allowed in the city and the police shouldn't seek court's intervention. Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways Nitin Gadkari and the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurate the National Road Safety Month. The government is committed to bringing down the number of accidents and deaths due to it by 50% before 2025 with the help of the people's participation. And at stumps on day 4 of the 4th and final test at Brisbane, India need 324 more runs to win the test against Australia. 4 without loss, India is. So let's begin with our top story, with a big story at this hour. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today said that the government not only continued the work of infrastructure development but also dedicated them to the nation even during the COVID-19 induced lockdown. The Prime Minister was speaking after laying the virtual foundation stone for the Ahmedabad Metro Rail Project Phase 2 and the Surat Metro Rail Project, and he said that the newly unveiled projects will boost connectivity in the two big cities, Ahmedabad and Surat. The Prime Minister also said that a lot of infrastructure development has taken place in the tenure of the BJP government. He added that in the last 6 years, over 450 kilometers of metro network became operational, while work is underway on over 1,000 kilometers of metro network in 27 cities across the country as of now.
देश के 2 बड़े व्यापारिक केंद्रों अहमदाबाद और सूरत में मेट्रो इन शहरों में कनेक्टिविटी को और मजबूत करने का काम करेगी। बहनों, आज 17,000 करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का काम शुरू हो रहा है। कोरोना के इस काल में भी नए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के निर्माण को लेकर देश के प्रयास लगातार बढ़ रहे हैं। अहमदाबाद और सूरत दोनों गुजरात की और भारत की आत्मनिर्भरता को सशक्त करने वाले शहर हैं।
PM Modi also said that the government's focus is on developing cities, transport system like integrated system, and he added that this means that bus, metro, rail would work in a collective system complementary to one another.
आज हम शहरों के ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को एक इंटीग्रेटेड सिस्टम के तौर पर विकसित कर रहे हैं, यानी बस, मेट्रो, रेल सब अपने अपने हिसाब से नहीं दौड़े बल्कि एक सामूहिक व्यवस्था के तौर पर काम करें, एक दूसरे को पूरक बने। यहां अहमदाबाद मेट्रो में ही जो नेशनल कॉमन मोबिलिटी कार्ड जब मैं वहां आया था, लॉन्च हुआ था, वो भविष्य में इस इंटीग्रेशन में और मदद करने जा रहा है। साथियों, हमारे शहरों की आज की क्या जरूरत है और आने वाले 10-12 सालों में क्या जरूरत होगी, इस विजन को लेकर हमने काम शुरू किया।
Well, he added that Surat is the 4th most rapidly developing city in the world and is a great example of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat.
आज हम देखते हैं कि सूरत एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत का कितना बेहतर उदाहरण है। यहां में पूर्वांचल, ओडिशा, झारखंड, पश्चिम बंगाल, नॉर्थ ईस्ट, देश के कोने कोने से अपना भाग्य चमकाने के लिए आए हुए लोग, हमारे उद्यमी लोग, शिस्त और समर्पण के साथ लगे हुए लोग एक प्रकार से जीता जागता सपनों से भरा हुआ लघु भारत सूरत की धरती पे पनपा है। ये सभी साथी मिलकर सूरत के विकास को नई बुलंदी देने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं।
Prime Minister also said that Gandhinagar and Ahmedabad, they have seen a massive change in the last few years, and he added that several projects are being started for overall development of both cities, including the high-tech bullet train project.
ऐसे प्रोजेक्ट्स, इंफ्रा के अनेक आधुनिक प्रोजेक्ट्स, इसने गांधीनगर को जीवंत कर दिया है, एक प्रकार से स्वप्निल शहर बना दिया है। साथियों, गांधीनगर के साथ ही अहमदाबाद में ही ऐसी अनेकों परियोजनाएं हैं जो आज शहर की पहचान बन चुकी है। साबरमती रिवर फ्रंट हो, कांकरिया लेक फ्रंट हो, अब अहमदाबाद के पास धौलेरा में नया एयरपोर्ट भी बनने वाला है। इस एयरपोर्ट को अहमदाबाद से कनेक्ट करने के लिए अहमदाबाद धौलेरा मोनोरेल को भी हाल में स्वीकृति दी जा चुकी है। इसी तरह अहमदाबाद और सूरत को देश की आर्थिक राजधानी मुंबई से जोड़ने वाली बुलेट ट्रेन पर भी काम प्रगति पर है।
Prime Minister stressed that India is not only growing at a fast pace, but it's also getting better. And he added that the world's biggest vaccination campaign is a significant step in this direction.
आज भारत आत्मविश्वास के साथ फैसले ले रहा है, उन पर तेजी से अमल भी कर रहा है। आज भारत सिर्फ बड़ाई नहीं कर रहा है, आज भारत बेहतर भी कर रहा है। आज दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी प्रतिमा भारत में है। आज दुनिया के सबसे बड़ा अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग प्रोग्राम भारत में चल रहा है। आज दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा हेल्थ केयर एश्योरेंस प्रोग्राम भी भारत में चल रहा है। कोरोना संक्रमण के विरुद्ध दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा टीकाकरण अभियान भी भारत में ही शुरू हुआ है।
And Prime Minister also highlighted that the Pragati Meet, which has helped fast-tracking infra development, has taken place, and he added that through this meet, the review of 13 lakh crores of infrastructure projects has been done.
नए भारत का लक्ष्य लोगों की आवश्यकताओं को समझते हुए, आकांक्षाओं को समझते हुए, तेज गति से काम करते हुए प्राप्त किया जा सकता है। इसी दिशा एक और प्रयास है जिसकी लोगों में उतनी चर्चा नहीं होती जितनी होनी चाहिए। ये प्रयास है केंद्रीय स्तर पर प्रगति नाम से बनाई गई व्यवस्था। देश की अलग अलग योजनाओं में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के प्रोजेक्ट में तेजी लाने के में इस प्रगति प्लेटफॉर्म का, प्रगति कार्यक्रम का बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है। प्रगति की बैठकों में मैं कोशिश करता हूं कि सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स के साथ सीधा संवाद करके दशकों से अटके हुए प्रोजेक्ट का कोई हल निकल सके। बीते 5 साल में प्रगति की बैठकों में 13 लाख करोड़ रुपए से ज्यादा के प्रोजेक्ट्स की समीक्षा हो चुकी है।
The Prime Minister also highlighted work done for MSME businesses. He added that better infrastructure development projects, they have given confidence to the small businesses and the MSMEs to compete on a global platform.
हमारे उद्योगों को और खासकर छोटे उद्योगों को, MSMEs को एक आत्मविश्वास मिलता है कि वो दुनिया के बड़े बाजारों से कंपटीशन कर रहे हैं, तो उनके पास बड़े देशों जैसा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी है। आत्मनिर्भर भारत अभियान में इन छोटे उद्योगों के लिए और भी कई बड़े कदम उठाए गए हैं। सबसे बड़ा फैसला सरकार ने MSMEs के परिभाषा को लेकर किया है। वहीं सरकारी खरीद में भी भारत के MSMEs को ज्यादा से ज्यादा मौके मिले, इसका प्रबंध भी किया गया है। कोशिश ये है कि हमारे छोटे उद्योग खूब फले फूले।
And the Ahmedabad Metro Rail Project Phase 2 is 28.25 kilometers long with two corridors. Corridor 1 is 22.8 kilometers long to be constructed from Motera Stadium to Mahatma Mandir, and Corridor 2 is 5.4 kilometers long to be constructed from GNLU to Gift City. The completion cost of Phase 2 project is 5,384 crore rupees. Also, the Surat Metro project is 40.35 kilometers long and it comprises two corridors. Corridor 1 is 21.61 kilometers long to be constructed from Sarthana to Dream City. Corridor 2 is 18.75 kilometers, 74 kilometers long to be constructed from Bhesan to Saroli. And the completion cost of this project is 12,020 crore rupees. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah has said that the government has speeded up development in the last 6 years, and today the world looks at India. The Home Minister also said that the metro train services will be extended to Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities as well.
અને 6.5 વર્ષની અંદર જ એના સુંદર પરિણામો ભારતની અંદર જોવા મળ્યા છે. સમગ્ર દુનિયાનો ભારતને જોવાનો નજરિયો બદલાયો છે. મેટ્રો રેલવેની જ વાત કરીએ તો 6.5 વર્ષની અંદર ખૂબ મોટું પરિવર્તન મેટ્રો રેલવેના ક્ષેત્રની અંદર આવ્યું છે. પહેલા 5 શહેરોની અંદર લગભગ 250 કિલોમીટરની મેટ્રો રેલ હતી અને આજે 18 શહેરોની અંદર 702 કિલોમીટર સુધી પહોંચી ગયા છે. અને આ ગતિ આવનારા દિવસોમાં અનેક ગણી વધવાની છે. એની અંદર મધ્યમ કક્ષાના શહેરોનો પણ સમાવેશ થયો છે, ક્યાંક નાની કક્ષાના શહેરોનો પણ સમાવેશ થયો છે અને એના પરિણામ સ્વરૂપે આવનારા દિવસોની અંદર માસ ટ્રાન્સપોર્ટેશન સિસ્ટમની અંદર ખૂબ મોટો સુધારો જોવા મળ્યો છે.
The Union Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs said that unveiling of the Ahmedabad Metro Rail Project Phase 2 would make the commuting much more convenient for 65 lakh population of Ahmedabad. He added that the expansion of the metro rail is among the centre's top priorities.
अहमदाबाद मेट्रो फेज 1 का कार्य बहुत जोर शोर से चल रहा है और जून 2022 में जब देश स्वतंत्रता की 75वीं वर्षगांठ मना रहा होगा, ये कार्य पूरा हो जाएगा। ये परियोजना अहमदाबाद की 65 लाख आबादी के यातायात को सुगम बनाएगी। मेट्रो रेल परियोजनाओं का इम्प्लीमेंटेशन केंद्र सरकार की सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकताओं में एक है तथा आवासन और शहरी कार्यालय मंत्रालय इन परियोजनाओं को पूरा करने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है।
And Arun Sharma now joins us with inputs on the story. Well, Arun, you know Gujarat like the back of your hand. So tell us how important are these metro rail projects? The second phase for Ahmedabad, the first phase already in operation. It will be completed by 2023. How would you look at both from Ahmedabad and Surat's point of view?
First of all, it's a big gift as far as urban mobility is concerned to Ahmedabad. Now look at this way. The world's largest cricket stadium is Motera Cricket Stadium. Now that will be connected to Mahatma Mandir. Now we know this fact that events, international events like Vibrant Gujarat, whereby international delegates also do participate. Mahatma Mandir is that place whereby summits like Vibrant Gujarat do take place. So it is going to connect primarily Mahatma Mandir to the world's largest cricket stadium, that's the Motera Cricket Stadium. So the outer part of the Ahmedabad is going to get a major, infrastructure push in terms of urban mobility as of now. So there will be close to 20 stations in between Mahatma Mandir and of course the world's largest cricket stadium, that's Motera Stadium. Another part is Gift City. Now we should understand this fact that the GNLU or the Law University in Gujarat and of course the Gift City in Gujarat will also be connected. Now Gift City is on the prime radar as far as investors are concerned. There are various international entities, they are registering themselves at the Gift City. Various international trading platforms, companies, they're also registered already as far as Gift City is concerned. GIFT City is providing international, investment options as far as currency, derivative markets, and commodities markets are concerned. So in that context, GIFT City is an international domain for international and fintech investment purposes. So in that context, it is also going to give a major connectivity to the GIFT City in Ahmedabad, and of course, if you look at the Ahmedabad Gandhinagar part, so the financial hub of Gujarat, that's Ahmedabad, and the capital of Gujarat, that's Gandhinagar. These two will be connected well. And as the government is also committed on the fact that they're going to launch various light metro versions as well. So it is very much likely that in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, we can expect the light metro versions as well. So the vicinity of Ahmedabad, Surat, they'll also be get a major push as far as infrastructure is concerned. Talking about Surat, we know this fact that Surat is known for the diamond city, and it's the world's largest, fourth largest city in terms of development. It is one of the top cities as far as Swachhta or cleanliness is concerned in our country. So in that context, Surat is also going to get two specific, metro corridors. But when we talk about the metro corridor that is connecting Dream City, it's an important aspect because there are various, investors who do come visit to Surat, specifically from the Gulf countries, from Dubai, from Abu Dhabi. So they do visit Surat, but they get stuck in massive traffic jams. So now when these two metro corridors will be operational in Surat, that is also going to give a major push to the diamond industry as well, because now there are various flights that are operating from Surat to the Gulf countries, and this metro will give a major ease to the students who are going to school, the business persons who are coming from abroad, and of course to the local commuters who are commuting in Surat. So it's a win-win situation for all the stakeholders primarily, because on one side, a major urban transportation will get a major push. So on the other side, the environment-friendly approach is also maintained as far as these metro projects are concerned, Mark.
And economically also, Arun, perhaps, the whole area will, because of this development of infrastructure, will see a rise in value. Perhaps real estate values will go up. People who are invested in it will be happy. How would you look at, the development of these cities? It's already, Surat is, as the Prime Minister was saying, was the fourth largest city, growing city in the world. So a lot of development is taking place at a rapid pace. Also the speed with which the government is building the infrastructure. The speed with which the metro rail projects have increased across the country to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That also is important in raising the value and the profile of these cities.
Absolutely, Mark. So the focus of the government is to provide better connectivity as far as the interstate movement is concerned, number one, and the intrastate movement is concerned. So when we talk about the intrastate movement, of course, metro train services or the rapid metro services plays an important role. So as of now, there are only 18 metros in our country. But prior to 2014, the network was close to less than 200 kilometers as far as metro transportation is concerned in entire country. But there are, in last 6 years, a massive network of 450 kilometers has been built. And government is targeting that by 2022, close to 27 metro services will be available all across the country. And the focus is to start the metro light projects as well. So we know this fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi also does a Pragati meeting. So that's an innovative idea by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, whereby he directly interacts, with the state government officials, the department officials, and try to fast track the projects that are, stuck. So in last 5 to 6 years, if you look at this way, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reviewed 13 lakh crore of infra projects. So how can they be fast tracked? So be it the dedicated freight corridors, be it the metro projects, be it the projects like Ro-Ro ferry services, be it the projects like, Girnar Ropeway that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has mentioned about. So all these various infra projects that's been fast tracked, it is because of the Pragati meeting that's being done by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So yes, the focus of the government is to fast track the development in that context.
Thanks very much, Arun Sharma, for those inputs. Moving on then to our next story, which is our developing story. Well, hearing the Delhi Police's request to stop the farmers from taking out a tractor rally on Republic Day, the Supreme Court today observed that it is for the police to decide who should be allowed in the city, and the police shouldn't seek the court's intervention. The next hearing is on Wednesday. Delhi Police in a petition had in fact mentioned that Republic Day parade is an occasion of pride for everyone, and thus any effort to hamper it must be stopped. Meanwhile, ahead of the next round of talks with the farmers tomorrow, the Union Minister for Agriculture, Narendra Singh Tomar, has said that most of the farmers and agricultural experts are firmly in favor of the new farm laws. And he added that after the Supreme Court's order staying the implementation of the laws can't be implemented. And he also expressed the hope that the farmers' representatives will discuss the laws clause by clause in the next meeting tomorrow and apprise the government of their demands other than the repeal of the three laws.
हमने लगातार किसान यूनियन के साथ आग्रह किया है कि वे कानून के क्लॉज पर चर्चा करें और जहां किसान को आपत्ति है या किसान को तकलीफ दिखाई देती है वो बताएं तो सरकार उस पर विचार करने के लिए भी और संशोधन करने के लिए भी तैयार है। हमारी अपेक्षा है कि किसान 19 तारीख को क्लॉज बाय क्लॉज चर्चा करें, वो रिपील के अलावा क्या विकल्प चाहते हैं वो विकल्प सरकार के सामने प्रस्तुत करें तो सरकार जरूर पूरी गंभीरता के साथ उनकी समस्या पर, उनकी आपत्ति पर विचार करने को खुले मन से तैयार है।
And Vikas Sarthi now joins us with inputs on the story. Well, Vikas, the Supreme Court, in simple words, is telling the police to do its job, and its job is it's within its domain to say who has to come and who has to not come onto the streets of Delhi.
Right, Mark. Supreme Court in fact reiterated its position, and on the last hearing also CJI said that we are not going to decide that who should be allowed or who should not be allowed by the Delhi police. It's the it's Delhi police authority to allow anyone to come in Delhi and Delhi or NCR. Apart from it, court also said that other issues will be taken up for hearing on Wednesday. But so far as this issue is concerned, it seems that court is reluctant to involve in all those allegations and counter allegations. In fact, when this matter raised by Solicitor General on last hearing, Supreme Court asked them to file a formal petition before the court, but today court again said that it is for Delhi police to decide, and these are the issues which should not be addressed to the Supreme Court. In fact, court said that Delhi police should not seek any kind of direction from the court. Though Supreme Court today Supreme Court didn't quash that petition, but it simply made some observation, and CJI said that all connected matters will be taken up for hearing on 18th on Wednesday. But so far this issue is concerned, Supreme Court time and again is saying that Delhi police should decide on its own whether they want to allow some people or they don't want farmers to come in Delhi NCR on 26th of January. It is for Delhi police to decide.
Indeed, so the Delhi police has been given permission in a sense to do its job. But let's look at the farmers, the laws itself. The Supreme Court has indeed put them on the implementation, the operationalization of the laws on hold for the time being, has been stayed, but they haven't, quashed the laws. But how does this reflect now for the meeting that is to take place between the government and the farmers' organizations? Because the government is adamant also that the laws cannot be repealed. And the Supreme Court has also put into place a committee that will decide on the merits of the laws.
Mark, when Supreme Court constituted this committee, court made some interesting observations where CJI said that he expect from farmers that now they will go back to their homes. But whatever happened thereafter, one of the members of the committee refused to join this special committee, and he said that he don't want to be part of any such decision-making process. So again, when this matter will be heard by the Supreme Court, Centre will raise these issues that this formation of this committee is not a solution, and though the court has already give an interim order and stayed implementation of the laws, when these matters will be taken up by the court, then definitely Centre will raise these issues, that how this committee is going to find out the solution when even after a couple of days the committee was not in a position to chalk out a future plan that how they are going to end this deadlock. So these issues are likely to be raised by the Centre on next date of hearing.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Vikas Sarthi, for those inputs. Moving on then to our National Prime segment. The United Kingdom has invited Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the G7 summit as a guest. The G7 summit will be held in June this year, and a statement by the British High Commission has said that the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is also likely to visit India ahead of the G7 summit. Boris Johnson's earlier visit to India was called off by him because of the coronavirus situation in the UK. The G7, made up of UK, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States and the EU, is the only forum where the world's most influential and open societies and advanced economies are brought together for close-knit discussions. Prime Minister Johnson will use the first in-person G7 summit in almost 2 years to ask leaders, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi, to seize the opportunity post-COVID and work for a better future. Terming India as the pharmacy of the world, the UK lauded the efforts regarding the production of coronavirus vaccines. Well, Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari inaugurated the Road Safety Month today, and the commemoration of this month marks the Road Transport and Highways Ministry's commitment for making roads safer for all road users. In his address, Nitin Gadkari stressed on opening driving schools in backward areas. He also said that such initiatives will not only reduce road accidents, but will also provide employment in remote areas.
मरने वाले कम से कम 100 लोगों की जान हमने बचाने का काम डॉक्टर विकास महात्मे जी ने किया और कम से कम 50% एक्सीडेंट्स भी कम हो गए। हमारे देश में 22 लाख ड्राइवरों की कमी है और हमारे यहाँ विशेष रूप से ट्राइबल बैकवर्ड एरिया में रोजगार का भी समस्या है। ये ड्राइविंग स्कूल खोलने की हमारी इच्छा है और इससे कम से कम 22 लाख लोगों को तो रोजगार भी मिलेगा और अगर इनको अच्छा ट्रेन करेंगे तो निश्चित रूप से लोगों की जान भी बचेगी।
And Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said that road accidents in the country are a cause of concern. He said that India loses close to 3% of its GDP due to road crashes alone.
ज्यादातर दुर्घटनाएं 18 से 45 वर्ष के आयु के लोगों की ही हुई हैं, जबकि वो हमारे देश के कितने बड़े एसेट हैं, कितने इंपॉर्टेंट एसेट है हमारा ये यूथ। बॉर्डर रोड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन भी बहुत ही अच्छा काम कर रहा है। राज्य सम्मानित किया गया है, जो अटल टनल हमारा रोहतांग का है, उसका बहुत ही महत्व है। वहां के रहने वाले लोगों की दृष्टि से तो उसका जो महत्व है सो है। स्ट्रेटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस उस टनल का बहुत ही लगन के साथ बॉर्डर रोड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और उसके सारे इंजीनियर्स और सारे लोगों ने बनाई है। उसकी जितने भी प्रशंसा की जाए कम है।
Well, let's now take a look at the update on COVID-19 from across the country. 14,457 recoveries were recorded yesterday, taking the cumulative total of recovered patients to 1,211,342. And with this, the recovery rate currently stands at 96.59%. India has a three-pronged strategy. It's test, trace and treat, proving to be a success. The fatality rate has dropped to 1.44% with 1,52,419 total deaths. And the number of active COVID-19 cases in India, it stands at 2,08,012. The total positive cases has shrunk below 2%. It currently stands at 1.97%. Well, India has witnessed an unprecedented surge in COVID-19 testing. Over 5 lakh tests, 48,000 were done in the last 24 hours. 5,48,000 tests done in the last 24 hours. And the total number of tests conducted stands at 18 crores, 70,93,036. That's a huge number. Schools in the national capital reopened today after being closed since March 2020. Classes have resumed for students in standards 10 to 12 in view of the upcoming board examinations. and the Delhi government has allowed all schools outside the containment zones to resume functioning and directed authorities to ensure social distancing norms are followed. The government has also ordered the schools not to make physical attendance mandatory for students and said that students can only attend schools with prior permission from parents. All preparations, including sanitizers, masks, social distancing measures, are in place for the safety of students. Finally, resuming schools, the students say that face-to-face studies are much more effective than online classes, and some teachers also echo these sentiments.
महीने बाद हम स्कूल आ रहे हैं, घर में बैठे बैठे तो पढ़ाई हो रही थी पर वो उतनी अच्छी से नहीं हो पा रही थी, तब स्कूल आके होगा कि जो नए पैटर्न्स आए, नए तरीके हैं, उसके बारे में हमें स्कूल आके पता चलेगा, हमारी पढ़ाई इंप्रूव होगी थोड़ी, हमें जो नया पैटर्न है उसके बारे में जानने को भी मिलेगा, हमारे को मदद मिलेगी। अब ऑनलाइन और सामने जो पढ़ाई होती है उसमें काफ़ी अंतर है। ऑनलाइन में हमें काफ़ी दिक्कत भी मिलती थी, जैसे नेट इशू वगैरह की दिक्कत मिलती थी हमें।
अभी हम 2 बेंचेस छोड़ के बैठेंगे और मास्क हमेशा पहन के रखेंगे और हर चीज़ के बाद मतलब हम अपने सैनिटाइज़र अपने साथ लेंगे और हर चीज़ के बाद अपने सैनिटाइज़र यूज़ करेंगे। और हमारी एक क्लास को 2 में डिवाइड कर रखा है, अगर ज़्यादा होंगे बच्चे तो मतलब इसी क्लास को थोड़ी सी ज़्यादा दूसरे रूम में हम कन्वर्ट कर देंगे।
9 महीने बाद सर से बाहर निकल रहे हैं सर, मतलब सर पेरेंट्स भी हमारे बाहर नहीं निकलने दे रहे थे इतने दिनों से, खेलने वगैरह भी सर नहीं भेज रहे थे। सर आज थोड़ा सा अच्छा लग रहा है सर यहाँ बाहर आते हुए।
ये दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट की बहुत अच्छी शुरुआत है, क्योंकि स्पेशली बच्चे जो इतने लंबे समय से घर थे, चाहे कितनी भी हम ऑनलाइन टीचिंग कर रहे थे, पर हमें शायद उस चीज़ का अगर हम बच्चों से रिजल्ट चाहते हैं तो उस हिसाब से नहीं है। कम से कम जो क्लास में आके बच्चे टीचर के कांटेक्ट में आके पढ़ते हैं, एक आई टू आई कांटेक्ट होता है, और जितना भी बच्चे टीचर के सामने कर लेते हैं उतना घर पे नहीं कर पाते। तो मैं सोचती हूँ कि दिल्ली सरकार ने जो शुरुआत की है बहुत अच्छी करी है, क्योंकि काफ़ी लंबे समय से बंद थे और बोर्ड एग्जाम सिर पे है, तो कम से कम टीचर्स कुछ रिवीजन भी करा देंगे। और जितना भी इम्पोर्टेंट है, वैसे तो गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत सारा सिलेबस कम कर दिया है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद भी बच्चे की प्रैक्टिस बहुत ज़रूरी है और वो टीचर ही क्लास में करा सकता है, ना कि घर पे वो अकेले बच्चे अपने अपने के। तो गाइडेंस की बहुत ज़रूरत है।
Students happy to be back in school once again. Well, a massive COVID-19 vaccination drive is going on in India. The Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, on Monday said that India holds the record for the highest number of vaccinations on day one. As per the Health Ministry, this is much higher than many other countries such as the USA, the UK and France. The Health Minister also pointed out that till now 2.24 lakh beneficiaries have been inoculated. On Sunday, more than 17,000 people were vaccinated. This was the second day. It was a Sunday. And Health Ministry has also said that the total of 553 sessions of COVID-19 vaccinations were conducted. This is in 6 states in which 17,072 beneficiaries were vaccinated. We are talking about the second day of the launch of the world's largest COVID-19 vaccination drive, taking place yesterday on Sunday. On day 3 of the nationwide vaccination drive in the country, Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister C.N. Ashwathanarayan inaugurated a vaccination centre at a primary health centre, and he said that health workers are being given priority in the COVID vaccination.
We are providing vaccine for the frontline workers. It was a duty of the government to protect the frontline workers, immunize them, vaccinate them. To ensure they don't contact the disease, they need to be safe, secure, because their services are very precious, very much needful. So keeping that in mind, we are offering, this is not mandatory. So since it is not mandatory, it is their choice whether to take it or leave it. Probably over the time, it will pick up.
Well, after a pause on Sunday, the vaccination drive again came into force in Odisha. And in the capital hospital of Bhubaneswar, beneficiaries are being inoculated as per laid out norms.
Same arrangement is being made also here today. As you know, in the last event we had injected about 156 people, and now we are ready to give injection, immunize even if 200 to 300 people also today. Necessary arrangement is being made, more staffs are deployed, and till now about 20 to 30 have also taken injection. So everything will go as per protocol, as per government guidelines. There is no negligence, nothing, and we are all ready to tackle about 200 to 300 injections today.
And Kamal Bora now joins us with an update from Assam. Kamal, tell us a little bit now about the procedures that are involved. People, the frontline workers, they find their names on the list and they land up for the vaccination. And how is it proceeding?
Yes, Mark, as far as the first day of this vaccination process is concerned, yes, it was about, it was 65 station sites on the very first day, where we have seen that 3,528 health workers have been inoculated, which is only about 54% of its total target, because we talked about this low turnout on the very first day with the concerned authority, but they said it might be the hesitancy from the on the part of the beneficiaries, because some of them might be, they want to see the side effects of this vaccination among the people who got vaccinated. And definitely because of that reason only this low turn has come out on the very first day, but they are expecting more turnout on the day to come, and the government has decided to carry out this exercise on 4 days in a week, that is on Monday, Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. Today is Monday, so today is also vaccination process is going on in many parts of the state. The report is yet to come, how many sites they have decided today and how many beneficiaries have been vaccinated today. So we will get the report after some time. But as far as the process is concerned, it's going on smoothly. State government has already decided to inoculate about 192,000 beneficiaries who have registered their number through their CoWIN app. And after the definitely is going to take place for a few days. With maybe till the end of January, this process will be completed. It's been expected by the concerned authority, but we have to wait till then. And the state government is also expecting more turnout in the days to come. Since on the very first day, only 5 cases of this side effect have been reported. That is also minor cases. And now definitely the confidence will be building up among the beneficiaries, and they will come up in a huge number.
Yes, so the confidence levels will go up, Kamal, as you are saying, but then people who have missed their opportunity, let's say on the first day or on today, if they have not gone at the time that they were supposed to come, can they, apply and come in a little later, or will they just how is it going to be done if you've missed your chance?
Definitely, government will give them opportunity, because see the low turn. The reason of this low turnout, not only the hesitancy, also there are some glitches on the in the CoWIN app also that have been reported. The government will look into that matter, and the beneficiaries who have registered but didn't show up, definitely they will be given a chance by the state government. It's been reported by the concerned authority, Mark.
Right. Thanks very much, Kamal Bora, for joining us with those inputs. Our next story. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will chair the pre-budget consultation meeting with finance ministers of states and union territories in connection with the forthcoming Union Budget 21-22. It's going to happen at 3 p.m. It's through video conferencing. And in a tweet, Nirmala Sitharaman said that the government aims to re-strengthen the economy through reforms, including assuring fair, courteous and rational behavior to the taxpayer and demonstrating our commitment to improve taxpayer services. The Union Budget 21, it's going to be the third budget to be tabled by the Modi government 2.0, and the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is likely to present it on February 1. Well, counting is underway for the elections to 12,711 Gram Panchayats. They are spread across 34 districts. We're talking about Maharashtra. And polls saw an average of 79% voting on Friday, of which a total of 2,14,880 candidates, in fact, are in the fray. They were in the fray. So the elections to 14,234 Gram Panchayats were announced on the 11th of December last year. But in some local governing bodies, elections were held completely or partially unopposed. So the Gram Panchayats are considered the third tier of governance. The elections for them are not held on party lines using party symbols. A team of the Election Commission, headed by the Chief Election Commissioner Sunil Arora, will arrive in Assam today to take stock of preparations for the assembly polls there. The team will reach Guwahati later today. Earlier, a team led by the Director General of the ECI, Dharmendra Sharma, visited Assam on between 11th and the 13th of January. They assessed the preparedness for the general elections to the Assam Legislative Assembly. The CEO of Assam, the Chief Electoral Officer, that is, Nitin Khade, conducted review meetings with various officials to ensure the smooth conduct of the ensuing elections. The elections to the 126-member Assam Assembly, they are likely to be held between March and April, and it's usual for the Commission to visit the poll-bound states before announcing the schedule of the Assembly elections. Well, 2020 has been a distressing year for Bollywood as it's lost many of its legends during the year. The veterans like Irfan Khan, Rishi Kapoor, Sushant Singh Rajput left this world, leaving fans in deep sorrow. Well, the ongoing 51st International Film Festival paid tribute to 28 such personalities. The event to pay tribute to the legends kick-started with the display of Rishi Kapoor's film Bobby. Rishi Kapoor was conferred with national awards for the movie, which is the directorial, which was directed by Raj Kapoor. And moreover, Sushant Singh Rajput's Kedarnath was also on show. Basu Bhattacharya's Choti Si Baat was also being showcased during the event, organized to pay tribute to the lost stars. Cutter's Way, a movie directed by Ivan Passer, was also being displayed. More than this, the International Film Festival, it continues to mesmerize viewers with the display of many such artworks of Indian cinema. And now let's move across. Rukma Datta is joining us from Goa with an update. Well, Rukma, so right there in the midst of all the action, beautiful films on display, and it's also a film, you know, the feeling that people are going back to cinemas. I mean, it's sending out a signal that perhaps it's time for us to go back to cinemas. What do you say?
Right. Well, as you very correctly said, the message that if you wanted to send out was loud and clear. It's being held at a time when almost all festivals in the world are either being cancelled or postponed or being held totally virtually. IFFI, as we've mentioned time and again, is being held in a virtual mode. Well, right now, even if my camera pans across, you cannot see many people around, but you can be assured that people are coming back to watch films on the big screen. I'm here at Inox, which is one of the venues of the film festival, and people since the early morning, right now even, they're watching the films that are being screened in the auditoriums inside, in the screens inside. Even other sessions like the master classes as well as film appreciation courses are continuing at full speed. Only most of them are online. Many of the jury members too are holding the screening of the films and judging them online as well.
But let's talk a little bit about those films that are being
But clearly, shown. Mark, as you
Yes.
said, people are going back to cinema.
Yes, but let's talk about the social distancing norms being followed. Also, the wearing of masks. How are people actually watching the movies in the cinema hall in Inox? What are the norms in place?
Right. Right. Firstly, there is a proper sanitization process. They have to use the sanitizer at the door. They all have to wear a mask. There are signs everywhere telling people that they have to wear a face cover. And then every seat in the middle, alternately is being reserved, is empty. So that's one of the ways. Also, well, after the massive vaccination drive, people are resting assured. But on the part of the authorities here, the effort is still to maintain the COVID protocols.
Right, thanks very much, Rukma. So that's going to probably be the modus operandi then for opening of cinemas as well. in the rest of the country. I mean, not that they are not open, but the point is that people would start going for movies in that way. Moving on then to our next story, the religious city of Haridwar, which is getting ready for Kumbh 2021, is booming with folk traditions and culture these days through painting on the walls. A unique attempt has been made to bring out the glory of religious faith, folk traditions and mythological culture, which will attract the devotees. The government of Uttarakhand has left no stone unturned to make Dharmanagari clean and decorated. Also, the walls of the bridge, ghats, including government buildings in Kumbh region, are decorated with mythological paintings of religious beliefs and colorful paintings of culture. The efforts are aimed at making devotees from across the globe familiar with the tradition, culture and mythological heritage of the state. And in Midday Prime now, it's time for news and updates from the world of business. And Abhishek Jha now joins us with the latest from the business world. It's over to you, Abhishek.
Thanks, Mark. And to begin with today's news, the government has introduced Faceless Appeal Scheme 2020 with effect from 25th September 2020 to reduce physical interference between tax officers and taxpayers. The scheme has brought in a fresh idea to make the tax collection process less dependent on human interference and thus making it more honest and hassle-free for the taxpayers. Let's take a look on this report.
Major facets of our lives have been virtual during the COVID pandemic. In order to increase efficiency and transparency in taxation system, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched a transparent taxation honoring the Honest platform on 13th of August 2020. This platform provides faceless assessment, faceless appeal, taxpayers charter. Faceless assessment means if your tax return is picked up for additional examination and notices have been issued to you, you do not have to rush to the income tax offices. Instead, you would get an email informing you the additional details the department wants. You need to fill up a form that you will get in your email attaching support documents and send it back to them. All such notices need to be responded to electronically without the requirement of visiting a tax office or meeting any official.
साथियों, कोशिश ये है कि हमारी टैक्स प्रणाली सीमलेस हो, पेनलेस हो, फेसलेस हो। सीमलेस यानी टैक्स एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन हर टैक्स पेयर को उलझाने के बजाय समस्या को सुलझाने के लिए काम करे। पेनलेस यानी टेक्नोलॉजी से लेकर रूल्स तक सब कुछ सिंपल हो। फेसलेस यानी टैक्स पेयर कौन है और टैक्स ऑफिसर कौन है, इससे मतलब ही नहीं होना चाहिए।
The government introduced Faceless Appeal Scheme 2020 with effect from 25th of September 2020 to reduce physical interface between tax officers and taxpayers. If you are not satisfied with the assessment order passed in your case, you can file an online appeal on the e-filing portal. Faceless Appeal provides random allocation of appeal cases and end-to-end electronic process, and there is no need to visit income tax office. Under the Faceless Appeal, an automated allocation system facilitates random allocation of cases using artificial intelligence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the Faceless Appeal will give the taxpayers the feeling of fairness and fearlessness, and effort is to make tax system seamless, painless and faceless. The entire scheme of the Faceless Appeal is a confluence of National Faceless Appeal Centre (NFAC), Regional Faceless Appeal Centre (RFAC) and Appeal Unit (AU). The National Faceless Appeal Centre acts as a nodal agency and is a single contact point. The National Faceless Appeal Centre assigns the appeal to a specific appeal unit in any one regional Faceless Appeal Centre through an automated allocation system. Under the Faceless Appeal scheme, the physical interaction between the appellant and the tax department does not exist. Income tax appeals are randomly allotted to any officer in the country. The identity of tax officials remain unknown. The appellate decision is team-based and reviewed. Cases relating to serious frauds, major tax evasion, international tax, black money and Benami property are not considered for faceless appeal. This move gives greater efficiency, transparency and accountability. Government has undertaken various tax reforms in the last 6 years. The faceless ecosystem in the taxation system will ensure greater transparency and efficiency and provide relief to taxpayers and reduce burden on income tax department.
And now news from the market. Domestic equity market benchmarks BSE Sensex and Nifty 50 were trading weak on the first day of the week. BSE Sensex was hovering around 48,650 while the broader Nifty 50 index was testing 14,300. Sectoral indices were trading mixed on Monday with the Nifty PSU Bank Index as top gainer while Nifty Realty Index fell the most. Asian peers were trading lower in the early trade on Monday. Market opened on a flatter note at 14,553 following the weak global cues. Global cues also indicated that this week would be sluggish and choppy as the global markets movement showed small corrections with the opening all over the globe. So this was all for today's business news. Back to you, Mark, for more news.
Well, thanks very much, Abhishek. And let's now get you news that's coming in from across the globe. Well, here's an update now on COVID-19 from across the world. As of now, more than 9.54 lakh coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide. The global death toll from this virus has crossed 20 lakh. It stands at 20,38,000, and over 6.81 lakh people have recovered from the virus. The United States, it continues to be the worst hit country by the pandemic, and it has reported over 2.44 lakh cases of the virus, and the death toll has surged past 4,07,000. Brazil follows in terms of deaths at 2,09,000 deaths. Well, Brazil's health regulator approved emergency use of COVID-19 vaccines from China's Sinovac Biotech Limited and Britain's AstraZeneca. The government aims to start the national immunization program this week after receiving shipments of AstraZeneca's vaccine. The health minister, Eduardo Pazuello, has said that the government would start distributing the vaccines to states from today, with the nationwide immunization plan beginning Wednesday, and it could vaccinate 1 million people in a day. So meanwhile, Monica Calazans, a 54-year-old nurse in Sao Paulo, became the first person to be inoculated in that country. The country has now registered over 8.28 lakh cases since the pandemic began. And now news from the world of sports. Over to Suchitra.
Thank you, Mark. And let's start with some cricket update. Australia has set a target of 328 runs against India in the Brisbane Test. India were batting at 4 for no loss at stumps on day 4. Play was stopped early due to rain today. Earlier, Australia were all out at 294 in their second innings. Steve Smith was the top scorer at 55. David Warner contributed 48. Mohammad Siraj was the pick of the bowlers. He claimed his first ever 5-wicket haul in a Test innings. And 13 days Zanskar Winter Sports and Youth Festival kicked off at Ladakh today. The event will feature a number of exciting and thrilling winter sporting events for the next few days. The main objective of the event is to attract local youth and tourists from all across the country for winter sports and winter tourism. And for more updates, let's go live to our correspondent Ramesh Chandra, who's joining us from there. Welcome, Ramesh. What kind of enthusiasm you see there for this winter sports festival? It's going to be a very big event for the region. Ramesh, how are the preparations and what kind of enthusiasm, excitement you see in the youth for this big event for the region? So this is going to be a big event for the region. It will be a 13-day event, and there will be some exciting winter sports, and I'm sure that the local youth and the tourists will find it really interesting in the remote but beautiful region of Zanskar. So those were some sports updates. Okay, we are going back to Ramesh again. Ramesh, yes, we can see you now. Ramesh, the 13-day Zanskar Winter Sports and Youth Festival, it kicked off today. We just want to know what kind of enthusiasm and excitement is there for this festival.
This is a historic moment, especially for Zanskar region, because this one region which used to be cut off from the rest of the world, even rest of the Ladakh region, because of our heavy snowfall in those areas. It even cut off from Kargil, which is district headquarters. Now, with the UP administration has put all efforts to make the Kargil and Zanskar route open in mid-January, which is an achievement itself. Now, with the Chadar Trek, opening of Chadar Trek by Ladakh MP Jamyang Sering Namgyal, he himself is now on trek for 3 days, and he will be receiving Kiran Rijiju on 21st at Zanskar. So this is going to be an emotional moment for Zanskar, because these people used to cut off, and there would be no economic activity for almost 6-8 months during the winter season. Now this opportunity, the festival is going to give them an opportunity to give homestay and to have some economic activity from the tourists who are coming from through Chadar Trek to Zanskar and otherwise also through Kargil route. So this will help.
Thank you so much, Ramesh, for joining us. So such an exciting opportunity for the region, and it will be quite an experience to see that festival. So those were some sports updates. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Suchitra. Really, that winter sports really looks like something that everyone should be tuning into. And we conclude now. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.